Hello and welcome to the channel. So this is the third project in Generative AI series, and from the slide you can see that it's called Travel Assistant Chatbot. So it's going to be a chatbot where we are going to talk to large language model and is going to respond, and then we can ask further queries. So it's going to maintain the whole history. So it's not going to be just one way communication where we send a query and we take the output and display the way we have done our previous project. So this is we are taking a notch up, right? So it's pretty cool. Let's see how it's designed. So this is how conceptually it looks. So this is a demonstration where I will show that how it is easy to integrate various existing services and make something useful, something very cool, and it's not very hard to. So the way it is set up is, first is obviously we have a Gradio UI where user will interact, and then we are going to leverage these three model and services. So first one, this one is obviously our large language model from OpenAI. We are using OpenAI, so we are going to use GPT-4 4o Mini specifically. Then we are going to use a service to convert a text into audio. So for this we are using Google TTS. And third one, we are going to convert text into image. So it's going to generate the image based on the text. And for that, we are using OpenAI DALL-E 3, right? The flow of the application is numbered here, so you can see it very easily. So initially, as a user, I ask a question to the model. It respond back based on whatever I've asked. And also, this is a sub-step. So the same response is also sent to this text to audio service so that audio can be played. So here you can look at the text, and through the audio component of Gradio you can hear the same text being played to you, right? Once that text has finished, it's going to trigger a call to DALL-E model, where based on certain text which is being supplied by our chatbot or Gradio UI, DALL-E is going to render an image, and that will be displayed in a image component. So here basically we are integrating 1, 2, 3 different services very simply, and it's not very complicated. So as you when we'll do the code walkthrough, you'll see that. So it might be looking very abstract. Let me show how the interface looks like. So this is your chatbot, and through which we talk to the model. It's very similar to any chatbot nowadays. You go to ChatGPT or Gemini, right? So here you type the query, and this is where it responds, and it maintains the whole history, the whole conversation history with the user. And this is the audio component. This same response, once this chatbot receives, will be played here through this audio component. And once audio finishes, it's going to trigger rendering of the image. Now what type of image it's going to render, it depends upon the text, the latest response from the model, and latest query from the user, and it's going to look for a name of the city in those text, and if it can find a city, then it's going to render an image of that city. So for example, in this case I said that I live in Singapore, so it could figure out that okay, so we are talking about Singapore, and it has rendered this. You can see a checkbox here as well. So this is this image will be rendered only if this checkbox is checked. So by default it is unchecked, because image rendering generally is more costlier than text response that we receive from the model. So just to control that, I have basically used this, so I do not generate all the time, right? So in a nutshell, this is what the app is, and I hope that you are excited to see that how we are going to build it. So let's do that quickly. So before we jump into the code, let's look at the live application once. So run it. Okay, so as I showed you in the slide, that we are using image model DALL-E 3 and GPT-4 Mini as our LLM for text. So let me go back here, and run this. Okay, so this is how the interface look, and I can start a chat. Increase this a bit. All right. So let me ask, hello, if I am in, let's say, London. Okay.
Hello, Sunil. It's great to hear from you in London. Would you like information on tourist attractions in London? Or are you interested in finding out about flights to another city?
I hope you could hear the voiceover. It's the same text which was played as audio, and you can see this. There is no image because by default it's checked, unchecked. So let me check this and let me respond. Yes, please. Um, plan my day out in London. Okay. So this time I'm hoping.
Thank you for sharing. Sunil, in London, you
It's
can
funny how
explore
she
iconic
says my name.
attractions like the Tower of London, Buckingham Palace, and the British Museum. Would you like me to provide information on flight ticket costs for your next destination?
So now it will try to. So you can see that it's starting to process. It takes a few seconds. So let's see. Hopefully, it will show some image of London. Yeah. So here it is. So this is the image generated by DALL-E, and the way it finds what image to generate is based on what city I'm giving and the prompt I generate for the image. So we'll go over the prompt and how this image is generated. For now, let me show like what's going on behind the scene. All right. So yeah, so this is the image prompt that got generated. So this is the static prompt at the top. So I'm just asking it to generate some kind of pop art image, and I'm also passing the last two message. And since in my message there is a name London, so it could figure out that okay, I need to generate the London, because I'm saying that it should generate image for the city below in this text message. So that's how it figures out what to generate. So I've created a project folder. It's called this Travel Assistant YT, and this folder already contains all the skeleton structure which we have seen in last two projects. So I'm not going to bore you and create these in front of you. So it has git ignore boilerplate. These are empty folders where we are going to keep our code. We are going to look at them just in a bit. And I have selected Python 13 as using pyenv. So pyenv created this file to ensure that this Python version is being used. I have also created a virtual environment and activated it. Okay, so this is .venv, and based on the requirements file which contains our known packages which we need, LangChain, we need LangChain, LangChain OpenAI, LangChain Ollama. Even though we are not going to use Ollama, this I included because initially I tried using Ollama with this app, and it doesn't work very well again, because there is some kind of reasoning is required in this case, and it doesn't perform all the way through. So it's there, but we're not going to use it. If you want, you can just try it, because code will be there, and in the previous videos I have explained, and also it will be there in the readme file if you want to use Ollama locally, how to use it, right? So in previous videos we have already discussed, and the link will be there in the description, so you can go and watch it, how to use it. Gradio, and then for the environment management .n GTTS, this is the Google text to speech service we are going to use, and IPy kernel we are going to use for our interactive execution of the code. So this is the setup, and let's jump to VS Code and start building the app. Okay, so let's try to implement this piece by piece. So first, let's tackle this UI where we are hooking up with our text LLM, and then we are getting the response. So let's try to do this one first. Okay, so for this, these folders are all empty. So I'm going to create our usual files. Like for UI, I'm going to do y.py. Okay, and in backend for LangChain, we generally use this thing, and then I'll have a process.py. The difference between these two files is the way I segregate is LC I keep all, which is for LangChain, and similarly if I'm using any other library, I try to keep everything in here. The code which is application agnostic, not specific to application. Process.py is where I like to keep something which is very specific to the application. And UI is, of course, UI shared will be something that can be shared across front end, back end kind of utilities. So for this also we need a utilities utils.py, and also we'll be storing all our configurations in a separate file called config.py. So let's start with UI. So we are going to build so this is our block, and it's using something from utils, which is dark mode. So all right, so this dark mode is so Gradio at present doesn't open up by default in dark mode. It always opens in light mode. So I was checking with the Gradio team, and they advise that by default they do not provide this dark mode for some reason. And if I want to do it, then they have given me this JavaScript which I need to pass it to blocks, and it should work. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'm passing it here. So I have to import as well. So from shared import utils. Okay, and also I need to import Gradio, right? Okay, let me copy it from here. Right, so okay, so we need Gradio, and for connection, LangChain connection, I need LC, where I'm going to store all my LangChain code. So I'm just going to take, so this code we have already seen many times, right? First function is the connect function, which allows us to connect with the model based on the parameters we passed. In this project, the only change is this mode, because in this project we are not only going to use the text model, we are also going to use image model. So I could have created a separate function, but in this case I decided to just soft code it here and use the same function. So if it is image model in this case, and host is Azure in my case, which I am using, then it's going to return DALL-E, right? So these are the keys which I have defined in my env example. So you should take this env example, provide your keys. So if you are using OpenAI, just provide OpenAI. If you're using Azure, do this. Langsmith, if you want to trace it, then you can provide the Langsmith key, which is free. And this one we have covered in the LangChain tutorial. So if you haven't seen that, then please go and watch that video. Links will be in the description for this one. Okay. All right, so here we have a connect function, and then we have a prompt template function where we create our prompts, and we have a predict function. This function does nothing but it calls our model, okay, and gets the response back and returns the response. And there are some error checking as well. I have added some logging function this time as well. So instead of printing it, I'm using a Python logger, right? So this is defined in utils again. We need to define it. It's not here yet. So, okay. Here is my logger, and for this I need the logging module. And also config. Okay, so these two things. Now advantage of using this logger is I can put the things which I want to debug or display during the build phase, and if it is moving to production, then I need to just change one parameter in which I'm maintaining here in config, which is not there yet. Let me copy this. Okay, so okay, yeah, this is my config. So I'm maintaining everything. So file path, which is my audio file path, and all the parameter regarding my models, and this bit I was talking about. So if I put the logging label as login.debug, that means the lowest level, everything will be logged. So this is what you want the build phase. Now, when you are moving to production and I do not want to display the debug messages, I do not need to change the code. I just come here and I will just say info. So debug will be ignored. Okay. So I'm using this logger functionality here. Okay, so once this is defined, let's go to UI, and in UI we are creating this chat interface. Now this is a new component. We have not seen this before, and the way it works is it takes a function as an input, and it would call this function automatically whenever it receives a user message. Okay, so whenever I provide my query to this interface, is going to call this function, and the parameter is going to pass is the my message which I have given and the history of the messages. So first time there won't be any history, but if I keep asking and model keep responding, then in the chatbot like ChatGPT, you see that, right? Because there is a kind of to and fro conversation, right? So this whole conversation is stored as a history, and it passes two things. One is my latest message and all the previous history to this function. Okay, so that's how it works. And type messages means this only works if yeah, it means how do I put it? It requires that we handle the message format in OpenAI message format, which we briefly discussed during the LLM video. Now I'm also going to show that how these messages look like. So since we are using LangChain, natively it doesn't support the LangChain format of messages. So it's going to pass the messages to this function in OpenAI format, and it's up to us to decode it and convert into LangChain, and then using LangChain call the LLM. That's what it means. So let me just define this guy. It's a very simple function. Okay, here. So obviously we want LLM to connect to, and we need to import config. So from config is picking up host, it's picking up the name, and it will give us the LLM. And here is our nifty function, right? And this is the message chat interface is going to pass. This is my message, the latest one, and all the history. And then this guy does nothing, it just passes this message and this history. History is nothing but a list of messages in OpenAI format, okay, to this predict function. Okay, so now this predict function is nothing but takes LLM user message history, and ultimately what it does is it creates a chain, right, and it invokes the model. That's what basically in nutshell what it's doing. Now before we could do this, because this invoke function and chain is a LangChain functionality, so LangChain requires that the list of messages or history which we are passing should be in LangChain format. But as I explained, the chat interface passes this message in format of OpenAI, so we need to convert these history messages into LangChain format. So this is what I'm doing here. So history is received as a list, so I'm checking if it is user message, then in OpenAI format it comes with the role user, right? And if it is a response, that means LLM is responding as an assistant, then it comes role with assistant. And then I'm just converting into LangChain format. So type will be human, or I can give user as well. Human is more common. And I'm extracting this content from this OpenAI message format. Content is basically the text, and same I am doing. Type will be AI, and I'm just amending into array called memory. So basically this history is in LangChain format. Sorry, this history is in OpenAI format, and I'm converting it into LangChain format, putting into this memory. Okay, and here we are basically calling our prompt template function, and I am saying with history true because here we are not only passing the message, we are passing the history as well, right? So this we have seen before as well, right, in previous projects. So with history, what it does is it gives puts the system message first, and then it gives us a placeholder where we can stick in all the history, all the list of messages in here, and finally this is my message. Okay, so I'm passing system prompt and user message here. So it will give me this prompt template with a placeholder. Now how this will be replaced? It's being replaced here automatically, because if you see the key in the placeholder is history. If you remember, this we covered earlier in a LangChain tutorial and probably in one of the projects where we need to pass the history. So this history will be replaced here, and then it will invoke the model response and it returns it, and return goes here, and finally it comes to our chat interface. Okay, so the whole flow start when I type the message, this guy kicks in, it calls this function, and it ends when this function returns with the model response which is displayed. So this is our first part, right? So one, which I'm typing my message, is going away asking question, and then coming with 2A is the response text. So this is the flow which I just covered, and let's see if it works. Let's give it a quick test. Let's test this quickly. So I'm inside the project folder, and I'm simply just run the app. Oops, what happened? Okay, I do not even have the app. The main file I don't have, so I'm just going to copy it. This is a boilerplate Gradio launching file. And one more thing I've noticed, I don't have the prompts file as well. So generally we have the prompts, and it's a simple prompt. I'm giving system prompt is where I'm specifying that it's a travel agent, and job objective, what it needs to provide, what are the must criteria it must do, and what it should not do. And this is generally a good um, 4-part prompting technique, where you clearly say what's the persona or role, which is the first line. Then you say what's the objective, clear-cut objective of the agent, persona of the LLM or agent, and then you say what it's must do, always try to do, and what it should not do. Okay, the image prompt we'll see later. So this is my prompt. This is app file. Let's go back and try one more time. Okay. So this is the URL. Let me go back to browser. Let's see. Okay. So you see, by default it comes as a dark mode because of the JavaScript which you have put in the blocks. Now this is the chat interface I was talking about, right? This text box is obviously the message where user types, and this is called chatbot in Gradio lingo. So this is where all the history appears, right? And this is the history I was referring to. So history messages which we see text here, behind the scene they are maintained as OpenAI message format, and this is what the interface passes to the function, listener function. Okay, so I'm just going to hello, this is okay. Okay, let me show the logging as well, which we have put in place, right? So I'll split this thing. Yeah. So first thing, here it's saying what model it's using, and let's do this. So here is the model response. So this piece is working, and here if you can see, I have put some debug logs. So it's coming from the predict function in LC module, and you can see the history is blank because this is the first message. So if I type another message, then you'll see that it will start populating the history, and then you'll be able to see this history is the something which is maintained here. This memory is something we are converting this message format into LangChain format and storing it here, because we are going to use LangChain format to talk to the model. And this is the user message, of course, which I have typed. So this is asking my current city. So let's say I am in Singapore. So by the time it responds, now you can see history. The previous history was blank, and now you see here, this is the whole thing. This is the OpenAI format, where it is a list of dictionary, and the dictionary contains roles. So role, user, and assistant. Okay, so role, user, and I'm saying this is my content, hello, this is Sunil, and the next message is the response. Okay, so role is assistant, and saying hello Sunil, may I know your current city, which is this, right? So this is the history is giving us, and when we convert this history, the same message becomes like this. This is the LangChain format, which is nothing but list of tuple. Instead of dictionary, we have tuple, and this is the type. So for user, we say human, and for assistant, we say AI, and the next part is the text, right? So this piece is working. Let's go back to our code. Okay, so we are able to make this piece work. So let's concentrate on the 2B part. Okay, so the same text message which the LLM has given and displayed in Gradio UI is being passed to a audio converter. So this converter is going to take the same text and convert into a voiceover. So this is what we are going to do next, right? So let's move to UI. So first, let's build the UI. So what we are going to do is we are going to add the audio component just below this. Now this is a Gradio audio component, and I'm also adding this text box, which will be invisible for now, and this is a temporary storage where I'm going to store the last user and the AI message combined in this text box, and this I'll be using when we are going to generate the image. So this is for the next step. Okay, and why I'm storing it here? Because it makes my life very easy to pass, because if I have stored this data in one of the Gradio component, then I can pass it between the Gradio event. So this we'll see later on. So for now, just think that is there. Okay, so once we have this component, so obviously we need to have some events for this. All right, so I take a chatbot reference. So this is the interface. It contains a chatbot object because all the events are handled via chatbots. So this is chatbot, and on this chatbot I am handling this change event. So this change event is fired if anything changes in the chatbot. Okay, so when I'm saying chatbot, what I mean is this. Okay, so if anything changes here, then this event is fired. Right, especially when we receive a response from LLM, then this chatbot gets updated, and this event will fire. Once this event fires, it is going to call again, just like any Gradio component. It will take a function which is the event handler, and we do all functionality. We write it here. Now what we are passing to this function, we are passing obviously input chatbot, which is nothing but the full history of the message. And what we are going to receive, we are going to receive a file path of the audio, converted audio, and this guy. Okay, this is invisible, but it's going to hold a text that we are going to use for image generation. Okay, so that's the whole flow, and let me just show you this handler function. Okay, so this is the handler. So what's happening here is this chatbot message, we are passing the chatbot. That means this is the history, initializing few variables here, and then I'm checking that there should be at least two messages. So one user message and one assistant message, response from the model. Then only we are going to proceed. Otherwise everything will be returned as blank, like here. So let's say everything is good. We have at least two messages. I am picking the last AI response. So you know, this chat bot messages is a list, right? And if I go here, the last message before this function was called is this. So if you consider this as a list, right? So this is the last one. So in Python, we always pick up, if you want to pick up the last element of the array, if you want to pick up first, you say 0. If you want to pick up the last one, you say -1. So I'm moving backward. So I'm picking -1, which is the AI response, the last message. Okay, and then I'm passing, because what's my intention? My intention is to convert this model response into a voiceover. So I picked up the text, LLM text, and I'm passing to a function which will help me convert this text into audio. Once I receive this audio, I'm going to just simply hand it over to Gradio audio component, and I have put autoplay as true. That means it will start playing. Right, now what are the other bits in here? So we looked at this and this. This is, I'm grabbing the second last message from the our chatbot, right? And what is the second last message is the user message, this one. Why I'm doing this? This is again the preparation for the text generation, because image generation, which we'll see after we complete this, we are going to do the image generation. So I'm just keeping the context for the image generator model so that it can generate some meaningful image. So I'm just grabbing these two messages and joining them together and passing it back. so that it gets stored in an invisible text box. Why? That we'll see why. Because I'm going to pass here, it is output. I'm gathering the text. When we are going to generate the image, I'm going to grab this text. So this will be passed as input to some other event, and that's why I'm doing this. Okay, so it's saying that process is not imported. Okay, quickly do that. All right. Okay, so now let's give it a test. So I'm going to stop it. Restart it. All right, and I'm going to go back to my browser and I'm going to refresh it. So everything is new. Now you can see there is a new component, which is a audio component, voiceover. So let me do the same thing. Hello, this is oops. Oh, okay. I failed to implement this. Okay. Okay, so let's go back and define them, because there's nothing in here. So what do I want? So let's ignore these warnings. We are going to use them when we define other functions. So this is the nifty function, which is going to give us the audio from text. So for that, what we need the model, and we are using this DALL-E 3. Okay, so DALL-E 3 for image generation, and this function, it gets the text and it calls a function text to audio, which should be in utils, but I don't think it is in utils yet. So let's put it text to audio. All right, and we have to import this Google text to. Okay, so I think this should be it. So let's try to run this thing. Okay, so now you can see that it's also saying that it's going to use DALL-E 3 as image model. Okay, but why is saying that? It's saying that because I have put this code here. Okay, it's not required right now, but we'll be using it soon. That's fine. So it started. Let's go back here, and I'm going to refresh it and say again, hello, this is mail, and hopefully, let's see.
Hello, Sunil. It's great to hear from you. May I ask what your current city is? This will help me provide you with the best travel guide and attractions for your next destination.
Okay, so I am in Singapore.
I am in Singapore. Thank you for sharing. Sunil, which city are you considering visiting next? I can also help you find the flight ticket cost from Singapore to that destination.
Okay, hopefully you are able to hear that, and here is the debug message, which basically we are passing it to Google text to speech service, and which is converting this thing. All right, so this piece is working. Let's go back. So now we have done this. Okay, so we have done 1, 2A, 2B is done, and now we are moving on to this 3A and 3B. So what's going to happen is once this audio finishes, it's automatically going to trigger an image generation, and then this model will be called, DALL-E will generate the image based on the information that it gets from the UI. You remember we stored the previous two messages into a invisible text box. The content of that text box will be passed to model, not directly, through a prompt. So let's look at the prompt first. So this is an image prompt which we are going to pass it to DALL-E. So I'm saying create a pop artist style image showing famous tourist attraction in the city below in text message. So this is the key, city in below text message, and this is why I'm passing the context. So because you remember I said I am in Singapore, so this text is captured and then this text is embedded here. So the whole prompt, and since I'm guiding it to look for a city in the prompt which I am providing it should be able to find Singapore here, and then it should hopefully generate a image of Singapore. That's the whole idea. Okay, and one more thing I want to show you in the okay, not because we haven't created the image part yet, so let's create the image bit next, and that will finish the whole project. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so let's start with the image generation part. So first we are going to add an image component. So for this I'm going to create a new column. So right now if you see, if I expand it, this covers the whole screen. So what my plan is, this stack, right, 1, 2, 3, these 3 component will be in one column, and on the column to the right I'm going to have a image component, and below that a clear button. That's the idea. Okay, so let's go back. All right, so I'm creating a new column. I'm adding a checkbox. I'm adding this checkbox and initially setting it to false because I do not want this guy to generate images again and again and again, because image generation is more costlier than the text generation. So I want to have manual control on that. So initially I'm going to set it to false. Whenever I want, I will check the box. So this is the checkbox. This is the image component, very simple. And this is the clear button. Once clicked, it's going to clear the image and the audio file. All right. So what if we add any component, we need to add the events as well. So what we wanted that as soon as the audio playing finished, we want to trigger the image generation. That means we want to call a function as soon as audio finishes. So for that, this audio component, it gives us a stop event. So as soon as audio finishes, it will trigger this event, and this event is going to call this function, and we are going to pass this, our text box text hidden, which we gathered when we generated the audio. Remember the invisible text, and this is of course the checkbox which we are going to pass. Output will be the image generated. Now the only thing missing is this function listener, which is basically trigger the image generation through DALL-E. So this is the listener function, and I'm checking if the show image, which is my checkbox, is true and there are messages. That means in my hidden text box there is some text in there, then only please generate the message. And generation, I'm calling a function from the process file. Okay, so get image for, do we have it? No. So process get image for, so this is the function which in turn calls a text to image function in utils, which I need to import. Utils text to image, just quickly put it through. Utils text to audio, text to image, and it uses few libraries that I'm going to put it here. Okay, all right, so let's start here. So what this function gets is a image model. In this case it will be DALL-E, and a prompt. This prompt will be based on this prompt template which we have defined, right? And based on these two is going to make a request to this image model, and here we are using the OpenAI API directly, because in LangChain I couldn't find a reliable way of doing it. I tried a few things, but it did not work. So I fell back to OpenAI API, which is more reliable. It's a bit cumbersome to do, but in this case, it's pretty simple. So it's just simple call to model, model name and the prompt, and it gives me a response. And basically, when the DALL-E generates an image, it doesn't return the image content as a binary bits, right? So it will give you the URL for the image. It stores those URL and it just gives you a URL. So what we are doing is we are fetching that URL and using the request HTTP library. I'm just getting the content of that URL and converting it. So this whole things, basically you can ask ChatGPT to explain, or it comes from directly from the documentation of OpenAI API, and ultimately we'll have a image object which I'm returning from here. Now this function obviously being called from here, get image for. So obviously I'm checking there is a some text which we can use in the prompt, and then image prompt, we are basically formatting it. So this is kind of F string substitution, like this is my image prompt, and this is where I'm substituting the text which we received, which you remember is stored in the hidden text box, and I get the complete prompt, and then I'm just calling this text to image from the utils. I get the image, return the image. Then what happens? So I get the image here and just simply return it, and finally this image goes to our image this thing, right, output here, and it get displayed. So this is the complete flow. Okay, so let's try to test it quickly. Python app.py. All right, started. So I'm just going to put it inside here. All right, okay, so
Hello, Sunil. May I know your current city, so I can assist you with travel information and attractions? Thank you.
Oops, I
Sunil,
forgot to check
would
this
you like
checkbox.
information on tourist attractions in London? Or are you considering traveling to another city? If so, I can also look up flight ticket costs for you.
Okay, so let me check this checkbox and yes, please tell me about attractions in London. Mm,
London is rich with attractions. You can explore iconic sites such as the Tower of London, Buckingham Palace, and the British Museum. Don't forget to take a stroll along the River Thames and visit the London Eye for stunning views of the city.
let's see what it comes up with. Not bad, huh? Okay, so this is generated image for London. Okay, and come on, man. Yep, and see, this is the prompt which was sent. It says image generation prompt, so this is the whole prompt that was sent to DALL-E, and it could figure out that it needs to paint something about London. All right, let me try one more. So let's say I'm saying, okay, I want to visit, where should I go? Let's say Rome. Let's say, okay.
That sounds like a wonderful choice. Would you like me to provide you with information about flight ticket costs for traveling from London to Rome?
So hopefully some image of Rome must appear. Let's see. Voila. So yeah, this is definitely Rome. Yeah, and if I click this clear button, it's going to wipe out everything. So yeah, so this is the application. You can see we've integrated 3 services, and it's working, and it was not a lot of effort, right? We developed a complete chatbot which can be used standalone on image generation and the audio voiceover. All right, so I hope this was useful and you enjoyed it. And in this project, I'm not going to show how to check into GitHub and all that. I'll do after the video finishes. I'll create the readme file and check everything in GitHub, so the code will be available and the links will be available in the video description. So the next video, my plan is to start looking at agents, which I mentioned earlier in the intro section of the series, that we'll be doing something, or we are talking about the agentic application. So that's my plan right now, and whenever I get around doing that, I'll create a video and post it. So stay tuned and take care. So I'll see you there. Bye.